The world right now is designed to keep you blocked, unfocused, and numb. The world right now is designed to keep you blocked, unfocused, and numb. Hello, everybody, and welcome once again. My name is Jack, and if the algorithm has found you, you are a fan of grunge music. My band is called Mera. We just released a brand new single. It's called Burning Sea. You can find it right here on YouTube or anywhere where you stream your music. And I thank you very, very much. Seriously, from the bottom of my heart, because I really feel that grunge music heals. Grunge heals. I mean, I know it healed me. The music of the 90s, the alternative bands that came out of the 90s and that whole movement, it had a very, very therapeutic effect on my generation. And it's kind of a funny thing because a lot of people think of grunge music and alternative rock as harsh and abrasive, and the lyrics being kind of dismal and moody, and they were. That's definitely true. But the effect of it was therapeutic. It had the opposite effect. It helped people deal with the problems, with what was going on in that era, or at least with my generation. Of course, you can go all the way back to the 60s and the music of that era, like let's say Motown and soul music, and the effect that had on that generation. They called Motown a sound of young America. Well, that's what grunge music and alternative rock was. It was the sound of young America in the early 90s, and I was really blessed to be a part of it because it's helped me with my life. It helped me deal with issues that I had going on and issues that weren't being talked about in the mainstream. And that's why I think grunge music, Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, all of that is relevant right now. So I guess the question is, why did all of that come to an end? The 90s had such a creative flow. There were so many bands. Even if you just isolate Seattle as just one place, so many bands, so much creativity, so many original, unique groups came out of that one area. And then, of course, all over the country, all over the world, the creativity was just flowing like a waterfall of music everywhere. It was such a great time to be a fan of music and to be part of it. And the Lollapaloozas and the merging and the collaborations, that creativity was pervasive, and it inspired other people to do it. People like me and other people of my generation. When creativity is flowing, when your creativity is flowing, there's just a certain smoothness. Life it happens without any resistance, right? Like things your day just goes by in a natural sort of way. And when you don't create, and when you stop yourself from that creative flow, the opposite happens, right? All of a sudden, everything seems stagnant and stale, and you're irritated or you're bored, and you get very frustrated. And how do we deal with that? Well, I mean, honestly, I'm no exception. We all deal with it through our addictions. Kurt Cobain and Nirvana and, most of the bands that came out of the Pacific Northwest, they pretty much came from nothing. A lot of them came from really rural towns and areas and broken homes. And on their sheer will, their sheer creativity, just the dream that lived in their heart and their God-given talent is what catapulted them into the mainstream, into popular music. It helped them create a flow of life that was just successful. One thing led to another. They put out a record on an independent label, and then they toured out of a van, and then they got signed, and then they got put on the radio, and then they were on MTV, and then boom, and then it just happened. But all of a sudden, that whole creative movement, somewhere along that line, somewhere in the 90s, the mid 90s, the late 90s, it all kind of came to an end as I think we saw a certain disillusionment with the way things were going, the commercialization, the media, the politicians, corporations for sure, all got their hands in that cookie jar. And all of a sudden there was just this feeling of disillusionment, a feeling of bitterness. And a lot of people would turn back to their addictions. And we know that Kurt Cobain certainly did. And that led to, many, many problems in his life, in his band's life. One of the main problems, I think, especially when you were in a successful band in that era, is that drugs were so readily available. They were everywhere, and you didn't have to go far to get them, especially when you had the means to buy them, when you had the money, and you had the resources. Well, we are seeing that right now. I mean, that is the way the world is designed right now with television and certainly on social media. I mean, it's pushed on us. Have you seen television ads lately? It's just beer, and alcohol, and other drugs. Every kind of pharmaceutical is being advertised on TV, and of course, gambling. I mean, gambling is it's a mainstream. These gambling apps, that's like every other commercial. Just listen to Spotify, and every other commercial is for gambling. And let's not forget sex. Sex is a very powerful addiction, and we see that in social media all over the place. You see the stuff that gets pushed. You see the stuff that the algorithm picks up really fast. You see dating apps and the pervasiveness of that. I mean, all of that is really just a substitute for affection, right? It's our need for attention, and it's a substitute for real affection. Are any of these blocks sounding familiar? Is any of this resonating with you? I mean, what is it that you turn to when you're feeling frustrated? When you don't want to deal with the creative energy that's inside of you that wants to create? When you want to squash that down, what do you turn to? Do you turn to alcohol or drugs? Do you turn to sex? What about food? Oh my God, food. Food's the hardest one, because you can stay away from drugs, you can stay away from alcohol. How do you stay away from food, right? Food is everywhere, but it's such a powerful addiction. And sometimes the first thing we'll turn to is sugar or carbs, and we'll just load ourselves down, and it'll leave you with this really like this dulled sense. You lack focus, and you certainly can't get any work done. And I'm not saying that there isn't a place for all of these things, because, medications and food, I mean, all these things are necessary. But, even Kurt Cobain admitted that music cured a lot of his ailments. He would say that the natural endorphin rush he would get from performing on stage is one of the only things that helped his stomach problem that basically, no doctor could really figure out. And he was constantly feeling nauseous and in pain, and eventually, turning to drugs to fix that problem. He admitted that performing was one of the main ways that helped him deal with that. But maybe if you are anything like me, you might have come to a point where that stuff just doesn't work anymore, right? Like, it works for a little while, and then you just start feeling like you need something else. You need something bigger. You need to fulfill a certain purpose that stuff doesn't really take care of. It doesn't scratch that itch. You need to get back to work. You need to get back to your music. You need to get back to your art. Because the fact is, we all experience droughts when we're blocked as artists for whatever reason. Maybe something can happen to you. I had a bunch of tragic events happen to me last year in 2024. There were, my cat passed away, which devastated me for over half the year. I'm still not over it. And then my best friend, he died. Out of nowhere. It happened all of a sudden. And it was just those two things combined with like several other events as well. It was too much for me to handle. And I experienced a very, very long period of drought. And that happens. That You have to accept that the artistic and the creative life is going to have those seasons. Just like if you were, let's say, a farmer, and you were growing food, that's going to happen. You're going to experience these seasons where you don't grow anything. It's part of nature. But they end. I'm here to tell you that droughts end. So how do we do it? How do we get through? Well, you need to water your creativity. You need to give your creativity that flow of water that it needs to survive. And how do we do that? We get back to work. You start writing. And I know you're not going to get up and sit at the piano or pick up your guitar or sit down at the easel or your pen and paper or your computer, and you're not just going to write your masterpiece. That's not the way it works. You write something, whatever it is you can do. 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, whatever it is you can commit, you get back to work. And you know what? You do it badly. You write a bad song. You make a bad painting, right? You do something poorly so you can get past it. And you just do it again, day after day. And I bet you if you go back and look at some of that stuff that you thought sucked, you're probably going to find some gems in there. You can be like, wait a minute, that song wasn't so bad. I was just in a bad mood that day. The drought will end, and it will end when you feed it the nourishment it needs. Because as artists, it is a matter of survival. I don't mean to be dramatic here, but it's a life and death situation. You need to get back to your work because that is your lifeblood. So treat it seriously and give it what it needs. Treat your artist like you would your child. You know why? Because your artist is a child. Your inner artist is a child. A child is nothing but like pure creative energy. A child just wants to play. A child needs to feel safe. They need to trust the situation they're in so they can be open and create. And that's what a kid does. Kids just naturally go. That's why we see child geniuses. That's why we see kids doing things that adults would never dream of doing, because they haven't grown up to learn that they can't do it. To be told you can't do something, you learn that. That's something we learn as we get older. You can't do that. You can't become an artist. You're going to starve. You can't become a musician. You're just going to wait tables your whole life. We're told that until we believe that's the way it is. But to a little kid, that's not a thing. They just write. They just draw. They just dance. They just sing. And it usually leads to something really, really cool. And if you're worried about the fame and the likes and the subscriptions and the blah, blah, blahs, look, fame is not something that matters. And I know that sounds silly to say, and I know you're probably gonna call BS on that. But I mean, take a look at what fame did to Kurt, right? Do you think Kurt, at the end of the day, was glad that he was just famous? No. He was happy that he found success. Kurt wanted success. He was driven for success. But at the end of the day, the fame wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. He needed something else. Something else that, unfortunately, his addictions were the only thing that he could find to be the substitute for it. And those addictions stole him from us. And we lost a legend in the making. So I don't want us to lose another Kurt Cobain. I want you to get back to work. I want you to start nurturing that artist child of yourself. And I want you to start creating that great art that I know is inside of you. And you know it's inside of you too. So stop waiting for the sign out of the sky, a lightning bolt to hit you. You got to start small, and you got to start today. Start right now. And if you're looking for a sign, this is it. This is your sign. You need to get to work. So follow that inner child. Follow that flow. And you're going to find that your creativity is going to heal you, just like grunge heals me. And by healing yourself, you're going to help heal the world. Today's episode of Alternative Vibration is brought to you by the letter S. S is for stability. S is for strength. And S is for your success. The success that I know you're going to have. Because once you get started and once you commit to that daily, consistent work, that is success. At the end of the day, that's what success is. My name's Jack. The name of my band is Mera. You can check us out right here on YouTube. And as always, I thank you very much.